Hello community, today we're doing something no one has ever done before. We're taking a look and ranking all of Hitman's DLC from the entire trilogy, based on more than anything else, bang for buck. Now, this tier list does not exist, I had to create it myself from scratch, so it took a while, but I will share it with you in the description if you'd like to make your own. Let's start from 2016 and move forward. And to start us off is Patient Zero, the Altar, a pretty decent mission in my opinion. Both targets can be lured into different positions, which is something that isn't very common for Hitman 2016, at least suit only. Both targets have a decent freedom of approach, and Nighttime Sapienza is really well made. It makes it a lot more unnerving and mysterious. I would say this definitely is a good mission that changes things up and shows you a different side of a beloved map. Both targets are well made, they have a lot more freedom of approach than you would think they would, and the combination of cinematics and new music is a very good mix. Overall, it's a good start. And from there, we're gonna move on to the Source, which takes place in Bangkok. And this for me is a bit of a mixed bag. I like that they've opened up the top floors of the hotel, which is something that was restricted before, but I would have liked the left wing to be more open as well. We are still left with a mission that takes place on entirely one side of the map. Bangkok being as restricted as it is, I would have loved for the special mission there to be the opposite and really open up the hotel and allow players to traverse freely through most of it. The nighttime setting is very well made and fits the map brilliantly, which makes it even bigger of a shame that they didn't expand on it. The targets are also a bit of a mixed bag. They aren't abysmal, but they're far from perfect. You can't really lure them at all, you just have to sort of wait for things to happen and take a lot of risk if you want to be efficient. Overall, I would put it as just decent. Moving on to the Vector, this is IU's first try at creating a sniper assassin map. Probably for the better since no one wanted to go back to Colorado. That being said, this is a decent try, however, there are some faults with it. Diana's instructions can be both slow and inconsistent with what is actually happening, and if you decide to take your time in order to not screw it up, they'll just take off running and you'll be forced to try to snipe them as they're getting away from you, which is both difficult to do and also very difficult to keep Sound Assassin. Targets just taking off running for no reason makes literally zero sense, and is something I can't understand to this day. The combination of slow descriptions, which aren't that descript, with the fact that targets can just take off at any moment, even though there's no reason for them to do so, makes this particular mission a bit of a mess. I wouldn't put it as garbage, but it's bad for sure. And for the final Patient Zero mission we have Patient Zero, taking place in Hokkaido. Now this is garbage, and let me tell you why. First of all, you take Hokkaido, which is already as difficult and convoluted as it is, right? You have the tight corridors that are difficult to maneuver in the original, and now they're straight up impossible because they've been even more overfilled with guards and NPCs. The entire map is hostile, meaning that even if you were to visit the spa or kitchen area, you'll just get shot to shreds. It's basically Colorado in Hokkaido, an already small map that is overfilled with guards and NPCs, hostiles everywhere, and targets that are very tricky. Now, I understand why that was done. This map is basically a zombie mode for Hitman, a kill everyone challenge. However, that's not the prime function of Hitman, and just because some people may be into that, doesn't change the reality that this mission can be a living nightmare to play. It simply fails in all of the core functions of Hitman in order to attract a different demographic. Looking into the bonus missions, we will start with Holiday Hoarders, a free Christmas mission that takes place in Paris. And I do have to say, they have changed Paris quite a bit, at least visually for this one. The two main targets are thieves that are going around stealing different props from the map. It's obviously based on Home Alone. However, they are very simple and easy targets. They will panic immediately if they see you, and to my best knowledge there is no short and easy way to lure them in different places outside of collecting all of the props they intend to steal. You just have to sort of hunt them down and take them out, but still, it is a fun mission that is both free and fun to play, so I gotta put it in a good category. Moving from there to Landslide, this mission has everything you could ever want. The lore and atmosphere is impeccable, the city of Sapienza has been redesigned to fit that lore perfectly, and the freedom of approach is also pretty decent. You can lure him into the graveyard from the apartments, you can also lure down the priest by pressing the piano, which will begin a mission story with Marco, so new opportunities will open up for you, and all of it can be done suit only, as well as Sniper Assassin. It's absolutely fantastic. a great free mission that deserves its place at the very top. Next to it, we have the Icon, yet another Sapienza mission. The environment is well made, luring the target is a possibility. A couple of accident kills are also achievable as well. That's one thing you can appreciate about Hitman 2016. It gave us mostly great missions. It was before IO's obsession with escalations had begun, which is why we don't get any missions like that today. In my opinion, this is yet another excellent mission, though not as good as Landslide. I will definitely put it on the good category, it deserves that much at least. And finally, from Hitman 2016 is House Built on Sand, taking place in Marrakesh. Nighttime Marrakesh looks beautiful, and I think many people would rate this mission higher than the main mission, which takes place in the daytime. You have two targets, one is always stationary while the other is always moving. You can't really lure the target suit only, but you do still have your possibilities. Overall, it's just a good mission, nothing much else I can say. Both targets are much more approachable and doable than in the main mission, and the overall areas you'll be roaming are a lot more friendly. It's pretty decent. Next up, we're moving on to Hitman 2, and we have the maps, New York, Haven Island. Obviously, both of these maps will go into the top tier. New York is definitely way better in terms of gameplay, freedom of approach is plenty, you have so many ways to maneuver around the map, it's crazy. And also the map is quite stable for the most part, with an easy target that can both be hunted down as well as lured. The side objective is nothing crazy either, as you can either enter the vault or take down the 3 people who carry the drives, one of them being your main target. All in all, it's a pretty decent expansion, and on the other side, Haven Island may be a lot more impressive visually, but it's a bug-ridden mess from the beginning. The mansion area is filled with invisible walls, and the main targets are unwieldy and awkward in both their loops and design. However, at the same time, you will get the Seeker, the Emetic Gas 2, and the Jaeger 7 Tuatara, which are fantastic unlocks that are extremely useful and some of the strongest, if not the strongest unlocks you can ever get from a singular level. All things considered, both maps have their strengths and weaknesses, but there is no doubt they belong on the very top of the list. Moving from them to the sniper maps, there are 3 in total, and this is really good content because it allows you to try something different and break away from the regular type of gameplay. I personally really like the sniper maps and enjoy playing them from time to time. It's good content that gives you something else to do, it's pretty good to have. So again, I'll have them as good. Then we move on to the special assignments, starting with a Silver Tongue, which takes place in Miami. A bit of a limited mission, it takes place almost entirely in the parking lot and right next to it. For me personally, it feels very rushed, and the target is very undercooked as well. I can't give it anything more than decent. And moving on to Embrace of the Serpent, this is just straight up garbage. I get what they were trying to do by making the mission take place in the jungle of Santa Fortuna, but the execution is beyond awful. First of all, the area itself is really small. Second, it's overwhelmed by guards from everywhere. It's unnecessary, and the target is basically just making circles around this really small area that is oversaturated with guards who can spot you from so many different locations. And to make things even worse, they added a bonus objective of retrieving the Black Book, which is in a small shed surrounded by security. You have to be super accurate to be able to get this done successfully in one try. This mission is a mess. I should have extended the hunting grounds far more than they did, lowered the security, and maybe replaced the Black Book with a second target. They also could have added a lure with traps, so maybe you make one of the traps pop as if it's caught something, and that way one of the targets can show up to that location. All in all, it's a bit of a wasted opportunity. As it stands right now, Embrace of the Serpent just isn't good. From there we go to Mumbai for Illusions of Grandeur. Another very minor mission, though they have added different lighting to Mumbai, and let me tell you, it looks amazing, at least 10 times better than the main mission. The target is pretty simple too, and easy. It doesn't take a lot to be able to beat this mission. It's pretty low effort from IO if I gotta be honest. They really didn't do that much. It's decent at best, nothing more. And finally, we will finish with a special assignment in my favorite map, Whittleton Creek, for a bitter pill. Again, very low effort from IO. It takes place in the house for sale, where a paranoid salesman has brought himself 2 bodyguards and called the police to his property. It's not a difficult mission by any means, but it's also really not that memorable. And I can say this for every single special assignment mission we've got in Hitman 2. They are a far cry from the bonus missions of Hitman 1. The effort put into them was far less than before. Maybe the 2 new maps could be the reason as to why, but at this point I'm putting these missions also as decent. It's not horrible, just really underwhelming. Moving to Hitman 3, we have to start with the 7 deadly sins. Oh boy. First and foremost is greed, and honestly, it was beyond forgettable. You have to go around and take down targets to collect coins. You can spend those coins for weapons, but if you do, you can't get the challenges, which sucks. On the other hand, you do spawn with the cane on you, so you get to see just how bad of an item it is. There are virtually no uses for it. You can't hide it on yourself, so scaling up a ladder or a vent forces you to drop it. It's a hindrance overall. I can't say the escalation was fun, as it was grindy and difficult to pull off properly, having to take down targets in open areas with loud pistols. The items you unlock aren't great either. Knocking someone out with a cane will give you a coin, but again, what's the point if the cane is so unoptimal in comparison? For me personally, this goes in the bad category. There is nothing really great about it. And talking about pride next, you've got 2 options. You can either play stealthy or loud. It does give you some variety, which I do like, but at the same time the levels are really easy, incredibly easy. That doesn't have to be a bad thing though, it is fun. As for the unlocks, the sniper and sword are neither that great in comparison to most, and the suit itself looks questionable at best. Still, the escalation itself is pretty decent. From there we move to Sloth, and this escalation is the epitome of garbage. It punishes you for playing the game, literally. Every movement you make, every action you take, loses you vitality. It's very clearly created around speedrunners, which is why everyone who isn't one absolutely hated it. It requires you to be perfect in every single way, not making any mistakes in your movements or actions in order to succeed. It goes in the garbage category easily, but the only good thing it does have going for it is that at least you can speedrun it, meaning that you don't need to waste time playing it for long. The usefulness of the items it gives you are questionable, as if your target is knocked out by sedative poison and the body is found, you lose Sant Assassin. Overall, it's a bit shit. However, then we have Gluttony. Now this is a fun escalation. It takes place in Chongqing and it gives you all types of different guard types, different masks, which are associated with a certain food. Then you have to execute them with the right weapon in order to gather that food and feed the pig in the Chinese restaurant. I won't lie, I definitely had some fun playing this. It's not a bad escalation at all, but for the price, it's difficult to justify. You do at least get a useful item, which is a sedative gum. However, at least in my opinion, the suit is atrocious. Still, I'll put it in the decent category because it was better than most. From there we move on to Lust, and this is pure shit. I failed this thing countless times. Keep in mind, I'm more comfortable in suit only than most kinky girls are in handcuffs, and even I struggled desperately to get it done. The keys are all in the same location, so you do get used to them. However, the saves are different and for the most part are in pretty difficult places to reach, overfilled with guards, making it very difficult to get to. I mean, I get that's the point, but it really is overwhelming, especially because you can't quite call their loops. It's very unnatural in comparison to regular Berlin. It's only one level, unlike the other ones, and it's probably the best suit of the bunch. The bump you get isn't great, but the Serpent tongue is. When you shoot someone, it blinds them for several seconds, allowing you to move freely through an area, but it will cause panic afterwards. I can't put it in the garbage category just because the unlocks and the overall escalation isn't horrible, but at the same time, value for money isn't all that great either. I'll go with bad for this one. Next up is Envy, and let me just say this first. I have zero envy for anybody who's yet to play this. There's virtually nothing good about this escalation, and let me tell you why that is. It forces you to do things the exact same way, to take down targets in a way that is described very specifically, meaning that freedom of approach and replayability are pretty much zero. I like the suit a bit because it's green, but at the same time the unlocks are awful. The sniper rifle looks absolutely terrible. Whoever designed it should never be allowed to hold a mouse again. It looks abominable. You also get a curvy knife, but knives aren't that great for the game anyways, and we already got a bunch. Plus, curves are a good thing on a woman's hips or hair, but for a knife, it doesn't really translate. It's not enough to justify this thing. Garbage is the only category I can put it in. And finally, ending the 7 deadly sins, we have Rot. I remember thinking, they're leaving it for last, so it's gotta be good, right? Oh, how wrong I was. This is by a mile the worst escalation ever made in Hitman history. It's worse than Sloth, because Sloth, although awful in every way, at least you could speedrun and get it over with in a couple of minutes. This thing takes half an hour or more, and you will feel every single bit of it. You have to defend the top floor of the Dartmoor manor by only using melee weapons against heavily armed mercenaries, a ton of them as well. You can unlock some rifles towards the end, but because of the heavy armor of the enemies, it won't do you as much good. It's risky, it takes forever, so if you fail, that's another 10 to 15 minutes you'll be wasting on a single level. On top of that, the unlocks are beyond awful. The suit looks like you just crawled your way out of the sewers. It says in the description a black leather coat, but clearly the guy who designed it is either colorblind or color stupid. Either way, it sucks horribly. The items are a flashbang bear and a reskinned unsilenced rifle. Out of all of the previous 7 deadly sins, this is the one that is beyond inexcusable. There is no redeeming qualities in this escalation whatsoever. It's straight garbage, and I have no idea how Ayu had the arrogance to not only make this, but charge people money for it. Straight into the garbage can it goes. Also, there are Deluxe Escalations, which are so unmemorable, I can't tell you almost nothing about them. I mean, okay, they're fine escalations, they're not unfun or anything. They mostly resolve around the items you receive. So for example, in the white ninja suit, you get to speedrun Carpathian mountains. With a mask suit, you get to take down targets with the gold SMG. It's pretty simple stuff, and it is fun. I will put it in a decent category, because at least most of these escalations didn't suck pound water like a lot of the 7 deadly sins did. Dartmoor Garden Show is worth a mention. In my opinion, we need more of these types of escalations or missions. The ones that take already existing maps and change them up a bit to give them something new and exciting, something different. I really enjoyed this one, and because it is free, there is no reason not to reward it with a good score. Plus, the suit you get from it is pretty dope as well. It's gotta go into the good category. Also, Berlin Neck Hunt is another one we should mention. It used to be a special escalation for Easter, but now it's available all year round. And it is a fun and different escalation as well. By throwing eggs on the ground, different smoke comes out of them. Depending on the color of the egg, the smoke will either knock NPCs out, make them sick, or kill them. It's fun roaming around the side area of Berlin as the club area is closed, and finding eggs while also chasing the White Rabbit, and gave me some Arkham vibes with the Mad Hatter. Overall, it's a pretty decent escalation, and again, because it's free, no reason not to give it a good score. From there we go to Ambrose Island. Finally, we got a new map, and although there were a lot of reused NPCs and assets, it's still a free map, which means it belongs all the way at the top. It's a pretty well made map gameplay wise, looks can be questionable, some people will like it more than others, but it's definitely a good map, much better than it had any right to be when you think about it being free, which makes the 7 deadly sins pricing even more ridiculous by comparison when it comes to the quality of the content. And finally, the very last DLC is of course Freelancer. I can speak all day about this update, but I've already done so in multiple videos, so there is no reason to keep going. There is no way I can put Freelancer any lower than at the very top, because although it had a lot of bugs and issues, not to mention the extreme direction being questionable at best, I really did enjoy myself, especially at the beginning in the early levels of Freelancer, and I'm sure a lot of other people did as well. The amount of content we got with this update is insane, and it is completely free, which is important to point out as well. It's a great update, all things considered, though of course some things could have been improved. There's no way I can move it anywhere outside of the top. You can let me know in the comments below how you feel about this list as well. Would you change anything, and if so, what would it be? This took a lot of time to make, revisiting all of these DLCs personally, but I did enjoy making it for the most part, and especially after I was done with 7 Deadly Sins, I did have quite a bit of fun. Anyways, if you enjoyed, press the thumbs up, subscribe for more content, and more than anything else guys, thank you very much for watching.